I was helping my 8-year-old foster daughter Lily into her pajamas when I asked, "Sweetie, how did you get these bruises on your arms?" She pulled away from me quickly. "Just playing at school." My stomach tightened because after 3 years of fostering, I knew that look. "Lily, you can tell me anything. Was someone rough with you?" "No. Can I go to bed now?" She practically ran to her room. Before I could follow, my phone buzzed with a text from my other foster son, Jason. "Is Lily okay? She was crying in the bathroom earlier. Do you know if anyone's been bothering her?" "No, but she's been acting weird, like really tired all the time." The next morning, the school nurse called while I was at work. "Mrs. Parks, I need to discuss Lily's injuries. She has bruising on her arms and what looks like scratches on her legs." My mouth went dry. She said it was from playing. She told me they happened at home. I'm required to document this. The threat hit me like ice water. They thought I was hurting her. I'll need to file a report with Child Services. Someone will be contacting you within 72 hours. After hanging up, I sat in my car shaking. 3 foster kids under my roof, and now I was being investigated. They could take all of them away. That night, I watched everyone like a hawk. Jason was doing homework. My youngest foster daughter, Kia, was coloring. Normal evening, except Lily kept nodding off at dinner. "Didn't you sleep well?" I asked. "I had weird dreams," she mumbled into her mac and cheese. "What kind of dreams?" She shrugged and asked to be excused. 2 days until the home visit. I found pine needles in Lily's hair while braiding it, which made no sense since we lived in a suburban neighborhood with only oak trees. "Were you playing in someone's yard?" "No." But her hands twisted her rabbit's ears nervously. Jason pulled me aside that night. "Something's up with Lily's window." I followed him to her room where she was already asleep at 7 p.m. The window lock was loose and there were tiny scratches on the sill. My blood went cold. I installed a baby monitor app on my phone without telling her. That night at 11 p.m. I checked and she was in bed. But when my alarm went off at 3 a.m. for the bathroom, I checked again. The bed was empty. I ran to her room and she was there, sound asleep, but her pajamas were different. The pink ones I'd put her in were replaced with purple ones. The social worker called to confirm tomorrow's visit. "We take these reports seriously, Mrs. Parks. 3 children's safety is at stake." That morning, Lily drew a picture during breakfast. A yellow house with a broken swing set and a woman with long black hair. "That's pretty. Is it from a book?" "It's a special house," she said dreamily. "From my dreams." Something clicked wrong in my chest. I'd seen that house. It was 4 miles away in a rougher part of town during a driving shortcut, but Lily had never been there. "What happens at the special house?" "The lady gives me cookies and braids my hair." She touched her head where I'd found the pine needles. That night, I didn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I heard the smallest sound and crept to Lily's door. It was cracked open. Her bed was empty. I threw on shoes and ran outside just in time to see a small figure in pink pajamas climbing our back fence. My heart hammered as I followed at a distance. Lily walked with purpose, a tiny, determined figure under streetlights. By the time we reached the yellow house with its broken swing, my feet were soaked from dew and my mind was reeling. The door opened and a woman pulled her into a hug. Long black hair, thin frame, shaking hands. I knew that face from the file. Lily's bio mom, Claudia, who'd lost custody 2 years ago for neglect and substance abuse. Through the window, I watched Claudia heat up soup and braid Lily's hair, while Lily talked with more joy than I'd ever heard before. Claudia kept touching Lily's face like she couldn't believe she was real. Then I heard Claudia say, "The courts can't stop us meeting at night, baby. Darkness keeps us safe." Our little secret. It was now 4 a.m. Lily's bio mom had been making her walk 4 miles through darkness alone. The next morning, Child Services arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. Lily was barely awake on the couch. The social worker examined her arms and started asking questions when I stopped her. That's when the social worker said something that changed everything. Claudia hadn't just lost custody for neglect and substance abuse. There was another reason. A reason that made those 4-mile walks through darkness even more terrifying than I'd imagined. The social worker pulled a thick brown folder from her bag, and her face went white as she opened it. She flipped through pages with shaking fingers until she found what she was looking for and turned it toward me. 2 years ago, Claudia tried to kidnap Lily from her last foster home. My coffee mug slipped and hit the floor, brown liquid spreading across the tiles. The social worker kept reading from the file while I grabbed paper towels. The foster dad woke up at 3 in the morning to use the bathroom and heard noises outside. She pointed to a photo of a bedroom window with the screen cut. He found 5-year-old Lily climbing out with a backpack Claudia had told her to pack. My legs felt like water and I had to sit down on the kitchen chair. The social worker showed me more papers, police reports with Claudia's mugshot, and statements from the foster parents. Claudia had been sending notes through a daycare worker, telling Lily they were going on an adventure. She turned another page. The little girl had packed her favorite toys and was ready to go when they caught her. I stared at the papers, my hands shaking now too. "Does Lily remember any of this?" The social worker shook her head. She was only 5 and Claudia told her it was a game, so Lily probably just thinks her mom lost her for being poor. That explained why Lily was so willing to sneak out, thinking she was helping her mom who just needed to see her. The social worker leaned forward. "Do you want to press charges for violating the restraining order?" My stomach twisted as I thought about Claudia getting arrested, but I looked toward Lily's room. I need to keep her safe. The social worker nodded and pulled out her phone. I'm calling my supervisor. This case needs different handling now. Within 20 minutes, a different woman walked through my door, older with gray streaks in her hair and a no-nonsense walk. I'm Wanda Richardson. I'll be taking over since this is about external danger now, not suspected abuse from you. She immediately started checking my windows, testing the locks and taking photos of each one. I followed her around the house while she made notes on a tablet. Show me Lily's room. We went down the hall and Wanda examined the scratches on the window frame, measuring them with a small ruler from her bag. You said you have footage? I pulled out my phone and opened the baby monitor app, my fingers fumbling with the password. The video was dark and grainy, but you could clearly see Lily's small form climbing out the window at 2:47 a.m. Wanda watched it 3 times, zooming in on different parts and taking screenshots. This is exactly what we need for court. She made more notes on her tablet. I need to interview all 3 children today. Just then, the front door opened and Jason walked in from the school, his backpack sliding off his shoulder when he saw 2 social workers in our living room. What's going on? I explained about Lily's mom and the night walks while his face got harder and harder. I knew something was wrong. I've been hearing her window open for weeks but thought I was dreaming. Wanda asked him to sit down and started asking questions about what he'd seen and heard. Jason told her about finding Lily's shoes wet in the morning and seeing her so tired she fell asleep during breakfast. I should have said something sooner. Wanda wrote everything down and then asked Jason to wait in his room while she talked to the girls. She started with Kia, who came out of the playroom holding her coloring book, confused about why a stranger wanted to talk to her. They went into the kitchen and I could hear Wanda's gentle voice asking about bedtime, and if Kia ever heard noises at night. After 10 minutes, Kia came out looking puzzled but not upset, going straight back to her coloring. Jason emerged from his room and gave me a small nod, letting me know he was okay. Lily's turn, Wanda said, and my chest tightened. Lily had been in her room since the social worker arrived, probably sensing something was wrong. Wanda knocked softly and they both disappeared inside while I paced the hallway. I could hear Lily's voice getting higher and then crying, actual sobbing that made me want to burst in and hold her. The interview went on for 30 minutes, the longest 30 minutes of my life, with Lily's cries getting louder. When the door finally opened, Lily ran past me without looking up, her face red and wet with tears. She slammed her bedroom door and I heard her throw herself on the bed. Wanda came out with a grim expression. She's very attached to her mother and doesn't understand the danger. She gathered her things. A detective will come by tonight for official statements. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to get Lily to eat something, but she wouldn't come out of her room. At 6 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang and a tall man in a suit stood on my porch. Detective Jeremy Vaughn, I'm here about the unauthorized contact between Lily and Claudia. He came in carrying a leather notebook and a small recording device. We sat at the dining room table while he set up his equipment and explained that violating a no-contact order was a criminal offense. I need to document everything you've observed. I told him about following Lily to the yellow house, watching through the window as Claudia braided her hair and fed her soup. Jeremy stood up from the table and asked to see Lily's room again. I led him down the hallway while Lily stayed on the couch watching cartoons with Kia. He went straight to the window and crouched down, running his fingers along the frame. His face got serious as he pointed to small scratches and dents in the metal. Someone taught her how to pop this open without making noise. He pulled out his phone and started taking pictures from different angles. The marks were tiny but clear, like someone had used a screwdriver or butter knife over and over. Jeremy measured the scratches with a small ruler from his pocket and wrote notes in his book. My stomach felt sick thinking about how many times this must have happened while I slept. He tested the window, showing me how it popped open with just the right pressure in the right spot. This took practice, probably weeks of showing her. I had to sit on Lily's bed because my legs felt weak. That night after dinner, I went to check on Lily before bed and found her sitting on her floor with her stuffed rabbit. She was putting it into a small backpack along with some clothes and her favorite book. What are you doing, sweetie? She looked up at me with tears already forming. Mama needs me. The words came out in a rush as she started crying hard. I promised I'd come back. I promised her. She grabbed the rabbit and held it tight while sobbing about the promises she made to her mom. I sat down on the floor next to her and pulled her into my lap while she cried. Her whole body shook as she told me her mom was lonely and scared without her. Sometimes grown-ups ask kids to keep secrets that aren't safe. She kept shaking her head and saying her mom needed her, that nobody else loved her mom. My heart broke listening to this 7-year-old carrying such a heavy burden. We sat there for almost an hour while she cried herself out, and I finally got her into bed still clutching her rabbit. The next morning, my phone rang while I was making breakfast. Jeremy's voice was tight when he spoke. We found out more about the house. He told me Claudia had a boyfriend named Brady Nichols who owned the yellow house. He has a record for domestic violence, 3 arrests in the past 5 years. The pancake I was flipping fell onto the stove as I processed this. The house is registered to him, not Claudia. My hand started shaking so bad I had to turn off the burner. This meant Lily hadn't just been walking 4 miles alone at night. She'd been going to a violent man's house. Jeremy kept talking about Brady's arrests, assault charges, restraining orders from 2 different women. I had to sit down at the kitchen table while he explained the details. One woman had needed stitches, another had a broken wrist, and my little Lily had been in that house with him. Wanda called an hour later saying we needed an emergency safety meeting at the Child Services office. Jason heard me on the phone and immediately said he was coming too. Lily needs us both there. I tried to tell him he should stay home with Kea, but he wouldn't budge. His face was set in that stubborn way that reminded me he'd been through the system longer than any of us. We dropped Kea at my sister's house and drove to the office in silence. The meeting room had a big table with Wanda, the guardian ad litem, and 2 other social workers I didn't recognize. Wanda started explaining what they'd learned from investigating Claudia's recent activities. She's been telling Lily that foster care is temporary, that they'll run away together soon. One of the other social workers opened a folder full of letters. Somehow Claudia had been getting letters to Lily even with the no-contact order in place. The letters talked about their special bond, how nobody understood their love, how they'd be together forever soon. The guardian ad litem, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes, leaned forward. Lily needs therapeutic intervention immediately to process this loyalty conflict. She recommended someone named Kalani Townsend who specialized in custody trauma with young children. The psychological manipulation here is severe. Jason had been quiet but suddenly spoke up about finding wet shoes in the morning, hearing noises he thought were dreams. The adults all took notes while he talked. That afternoon, we went straight home and I started installing door alarms on every exterior door. Jason helped me test each sensor, making sure they were loud enough to wake the whole house. Kea thought it was a fun game, running in and out to make them beep. But Lily sat on the couch watching us with empty eyes, not moving or speaking. We put sensors on every window too, the kind that shriek if they're opened even an inch. Jason helped me download the app that would alert my phone if any of them went off. By dinner time, our house felt like a fortress. Jeremy called again that evening with more news that made everything worse. Claudia's been working at a gas station 2 blocks from Lily's school. He'd pulled security footage from the past 3 months showing her there during school pickup times. She's been watching from across the street multiple times a week. The footage showed her standing by the gas pumps, always focused on the school entrance. She knew exactly when Lily got out, which door she used, which bus she rode. Jeremy said they had 17 different days recorded of her watching. The planning that went into this made me realize how much danger Lily had really been in. This wasn't just a sad mom missing her daughter. This was calculated, deliberate, and getting worse. The next morning, I called Lily's school and asked to speak with the principal about changing her bus route immediately. The secretary put me through and I explained about the safety concerns without going into all the details about Claudia watching from the gas station. The principal listened and agreed to switch Lily to a different bus that took a longer route, but avoided that whole area completely. She asked if Lily would be okay with the change since kids get attached to their routines, and I said we didn't have a choice right now. I picked Lily up early that day to explain the new bus situation, and she just shrugged like she didn't care either way. 2 days later was Lily's first appointment with Kalani at her office downtown. I sat in the waiting room flipping through old magazines while they talked for an hour behind a closed door. When Kalani came out, she asked to speak with me privately, while Lily played with toys in the waiting area. She sat down across from me and explained that Lily genuinely believed she was helping her mom by visiting at night. The manipulation went deeper than just wanting to see each other because Claudia had convinced Lily that she would get sick or die without these visits. Lily thought she was keeping her mom alive by walking those 4 miles in the dark. Kalani said it would take months to undo this kind of psychological damage, and we needed to be patient. That night, I was watching TV when the door alarm shrieked through the whole house at exactly 1 a.m. I jumped up and ran to the front door where I found Lily with her backpack trying to turn the doorknob while the alarm wailed. She saw me and started pulling harder on the door, crying that her mom was waiting and would think she didn't love her anymore. I had to physically pick her up while she kicked and screamed, her little fists hitting my shoulders. Jason came running out of his room and helped me carry her back to the couch while she fought us the whole way. Kea stood in her doorway clutching her stuffed bear, tears running down her face from all the noise and chaos. After 20 minutes, Lily finally wore herself out and collapsed against Jason, still crying but quieter now. I looked at all 3 kids and realized this whole situation was hurting everyone, not just Lily. Jason was trying to be strong, but I could see how tired he looked from worrying. Kea had started having nightmares and asking if we were all going to be taken away. The next morning, Wanda called early and said she was filing for an emergency custody hearing to strengthen the protection order against Claudia. She warned me that Claudia would probably show up at court, and it could get really emotional with Lily there. The hearing was set for 3 days away, and we needed to prepare. That afternoon, Jeremy called with more information he'd found while investigating. Brady had been driving Claudia to the Yellow House for all those nighttime meetings with Lily. His car showed up on traffic cameras at intersections between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on multiple nights that matched when Lily went missing. The cameras caught his license plate clearly, and showed 2 people in the car each time. This meant Claudia hadn't been alone at that house, and Brady had been there during those visits. The night before the hearing, I packed bags for all 3 kids because I was worried Claudia might try something desperate if the court ruled against her. My sister lived an hour away and had a good security system with cameras, so we drove there after dinner. The kids were confused about the sudden trip. but I told them it was just for one night. My sister had set up sleeping bags in her living room and made it feel like an adventure for them. We got up early the next morning and drove straight to the courthouse, arriving 30 minutes before our scheduled time. I held Lily's hand walking through the metal detectors while Jason kept Kia distracted with a game on his phone. We found the right courtroom and sat in the back row waiting for our case to be called. That's when Claudia walked in with a public defender, looking thinner than I remembered from watching through the yellow house window. Her hair was pulled back and her clothes hung loose on her frame. The moment she saw Lily, she started crying and calling out to her, reaching past her lawyer toward us. The bailiff stepped forward quickly and told her to sit down, or she'd be removed from the courtroom. Claudia kept staring at Lily and mouthing words I couldn't make out while tears ran down her face. The judge came in and everyone stood up. Then he started reviewing all the evidence that had been submitted. He read through the police reports about the kidnapping attempt 2 years ago, and the recent discovery of the nighttime meetings. He looked especially concerned when he got to the part about Lily walking 4 miles alone in the dark and the psychological manipulation Kalani had documented. His face got harder when he read about Brady's involvement and his history of violence. He asked Claudia's lawyer to explain why his client had violated the no-contact order repeatedly. The lawyer stood up and argued that Claudia just wanted to see her daughter and never meant any harm. He said she was a mother who loved her child and made some bad choices but wasn't dangerous. When the judge asked specifically about Brady and why Claudia brought Lily to his house, the lawyer couldn't give a real answer. Claudia started to speak, but her lawyer touched her arm to make her stop. The judge called me to the witness stand next and my legs felt weak walking up there. I put my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth while Lily watched me from her seat. The prosecutor asked me to describe what happened the night I discovered Lily was missing. I told them about checking the baby monitor at 3 a.m. and finding her bed empty. My voice cracked when I described running outside and seeing her small figure climbing our back fence in her pink pajamas. The courtroom was silent as I explained following her 4 miles through dark streets to the yellow house. I had to stop and take a breath when I got to the part about watching through the window. Claudia was heating soup and braiding Lily's hair while my foster daughter talked with more joy than I'd ever seen. The prosecutor asked what I heard Claudia say, and I repeated the words about darkness keeping them safe and it being their little secret. Lily started crying in her seat, and Jason put his arm around her while I finished describing how I'd waited until 4 a.m. to make sure Lily got home safe. The judge asked me directly if I'd seen any signs of physical harm during these visits. I told him about the bruises and scratches that started this whole investigation. He wanted to know if I thought Lily understood the danger she was in walking alone at night. I said she was too young to understand and just wanted to see her mom. After 2 hours of testimony from me, Wanda, and Jeremy about the violations and Brady's involvement, the judge was ready to rule. He looked at Claudia and spoke firmly about the serious nature of her actions. She'd endangered a 7-year-old child by making her walk alone through dangerous neighborhoods at night. The no-contact order had been in place for good reason after the previous kidnapping attempt. He ordered supervised visitation only, twice a month at the court facility downtown. Claudia would have to pass drug tests before each visit, and any violation would result in immediate arrest. The visits would last 1 hour with a court coordinator present the entire time. No gifts, letters, or private conversations would be allowed. If she missed 2 visits or failed any drug test, all parental rights would be terminated permanently. Claudia started sobbing and reaching for Lily, but the bailiff stepped between them. We left the courtroom quickly, but Lily broke away from me in the parking lot. She screamed that I was mean and everyone was keeping her from her real mom. Other families walking to their cars turned to stare as Lily hit my legs with her small fists. Jason helped me get her into the car while she kicked the back of my seat the whole drive home. She ran straight to her room and slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the hallway wall. Kia was scared and confused when we got home, asking why Lily was so mad. I tried to explain in simple terms while making lunch that nobody wanted to eat. Later that afternoon, I went to check the mail and found an envelope with no stamp or return address. Inside was a letter from Claudia begging me to let her see Lily outside the court visits. She wrote that she was a good mom who made mistakes and just wanted to hold her baby. My hands shook as I called Jeremy, and he came within 20 minutes to collect it as evidence. He said Claudia had violated the new court order within hours of it being issued. This would be reported to the judge immediately and could affect her supervised visits. He took photos of our mailbox and asked if I'd seen anyone near the house. I hadn't, but now I was worried Claudia knew where we lived. Jeremy said he'd have patrol cars drive by more often to keep watch. 2 days later, Kalani came for Lily's regular therapy session and immediately saw we needed more help. She increased sessions to twice a week and started teaching Lily about healthy versus unhealthy secrets. Lily sat with her arms crossed, refusing to look at Kalani or answer questions. Progress was painfully slow, with Lily staying angry at me for what she called tattling on her mom. She wouldn't eat dinner with us and stopped letting me braid her hair in the mornings. Jason tried to help by playing games with her, but she pushed him away too. A week passed before the first supervised visit was scheduled at the family court building downtown. I was nervous driving there, not knowing how Lily would react to seeing her mom. The coordinator met us in the lobby and explained all the rules to me while Lily waited on a bench. She said Lily would be monitored the entire time through cameras and in person. No physical items could be exchanged, and conversations would be redirected if they became inappropriate. The visit would end immediately if Claudia didn't follow the rules. I watched through one-way glass as they brought Claudia into the small visiting room. Lily ran to her and they hugged while both crying. For the first few minutes, they just held each other and I felt guilty watching this. Then Claudia started whispering in Lily's ear, and the coordinator stepped closer to hear. Claudia pulled Lily onto her lap and kept trying to whisper things the coordinator couldn't make out. The coordinator warned her twice to speak at normal volume. Claudia promised Lily they'd be together again soon, and that this was just temporary. She said she had a plan and told Lily to be ready. The coordinator immediately ended the visit after only 20 minutes. Claudia screamed and held on to Lily until security had to physically separate them. That night, Lily refused to eat dinner and said I was the meanest person in the world. She said I wouldn't let her mom talk to her privately because I was jealous. Jason tried to explain why the rules existed for her safety. He told her about kids who got hurt when adults made them keep unsafe secrets. Lily covered her ears and ran to her room yelling that we all hated her mom. The next morning, Jeremy called with news that changed everything. Brady had been arrested on drug charges after a traffic stop found meth in his car. They got a warrant to search the yellow house and found something terrifying. There were bus tickets to Mexico dated for next week, and fake IDs with Lily's photo, but a different name. They also found a notebook with detailed plans about picking Lily up from the school and driving to the border. The discovery meant Claudia had been actively planning another kidnapping attempt, even while going through court proceedings. Jeremy said this was evidence of conspiracy to kidnap across state lines, which was a federal crime. Wanda had to report this to the court immediately, and was recommending all visits be suspended. She said Claudia was too dangerous and manipulative to have any contact with Lily right now. I sat in my car after the call ended and my hands wouldn't stop shaking because I kept thinking about what this meant for Lily. 3 days crawled by with Lily barely speaking to anyone and spending most of her time in her room with her stuffed rabbit. Kalani came for an emergency session and found me in the kitchen crying while the kids were at the school. She sat across from me and pushed a box of tissues my way, before explaining that protecting kids sometimes means making hard choices that feel cruel, but are actually the most loving thing you can do. I was wiping my eyes when the news came on the TV in the living room, showing Claudia being led away in handcuffs from her apartment building. The reporter said police found bus tickets to Mexico and fake IDs during a raid connected to a kidnapping conspiracy. My stomach dropped because Lily would be home from the school in 20 minutes, and I hadn't figured out how to tell her yet. The front door opened and Lily ran straight to the TV where they were showing her mom's mugshot. She stood frozen for maybe 10 seconds before running to her room and slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. I knocked and knocked, but she wouldn't answer, and I could hear things being thrown around inside. Jason got home and tried talking to her through the door, while Kia sat on the couch looking scared and confused. Hours passed before the throwing sound stopped and I heard the lock click open. Lily stood there with red eyes and asked in the smallest voice if her mom was going to jail because she told about the night visits. I pulled her into my arms and explained that her mom made choices that weren't safe, and none of this was her fault while she sobbed into my shirt. Jason appeared with a bag of her favorite chips, and Kia had drawn a picture of a rainbow with, "I love you, Lily," written in purple crayon. We all sat on her bed while she ate chips and cried and asked questions I couldn't really answer about why her mom would risk everything to see her. The next few days blurred together with new door alarms being tested every night, and therapy appointments marked on the calendar in red pen. Lily stopped trying to sneak out but would stand at her window sometimes looking toward where the yellow house was, even though you couldn't see it from here. Family movie nights became our Friday tradition with everyone picking a movie on rotation and making popcorn together. 2 weeks crawled by before Kalani called me after a session to say Lily had started talking about things that happened at the yellow house. She mentioned Brady drinking beer after beer and yelling at her mom while Lily hid behind the couch. There were times he threw things and Lily would run to the bathroom and lock the door until her mom came to get her. Details kept coming out that made my chest tight, like how Brady would grab Claudia's arm hard enough to leave marks, and how Lily learned to be very quiet when he was in certain moods. Kalani said these revelations showed we'd intervened at exactly the right time before something worse happened. The relief hit me so hard when Wanda called to say the investigation was officially closed, and I was cleared of any wrongdoing. She actually said I'd handled the discovery better than most foster parents would have, and should be proud of protecting Lily while still trying to preserve her relationship with her mom through proper channels. My legs felt weak as I hung up, because for weeks I'd been terrified they'd take all 3 kids away. The prosecutor called the next morning to tell me Claudia had accepted a plea deal for attempted kidnapping that included 18 months in prison with mandatory parenting classes and mental health treatment. She said it was less time than they wanted, but it meant Lily wouldn't have to testify, which was better for everyone. I was folding laundry when Jeremy's patrol car pulled up, and he got out carrying 3 pizza boxes. The kids ran to the door because pizza on a Tuesday was special, and Jeremy had remembered everyone's favorite toppings. While they ate in the living room watching cartoons, he told me quietly that Brady had been sentenced to 5 years minimum on the drug charges, plus some other stuff they found. He said Claudia would be safer in prison without Brady waiting for her, and maybe she'd actually get the help she needed this time. Lily came to me the next day holding a piece of paper and asked if she could write to her mom in jail. I called Kalani, who came over to help her write down her feelings in a way that was honest but safe. Lily wrote about being confused and sad, but also admitted she was tired from all the walking at night, and her legs hurt. She drew a picture at the bottom of her family, which included me, Jason, and Kaya, along with her mom in a separate box. Kalani helped her understand it was okay to love her mom, but also be mad at her for making dangerous choices. The letter got mailed through official channels, and we started working on what life would look like going forward with supervised calls from prison every month once Claudia got settled. 3 weeks passed before Lily's teacher sent home a bright yellow note in her backpack, saying she'd been raising her hand more in class and actually finishing her math worksheets. I found Lily at the kitchen table that afternoon doing homework without being asked while Kia colored next to her, and Jason made them both snacks. The teacher had drawn a smiley face at the bottom of the note and written that Lily seemed more awake during story time now. That evening, Jason helped me clean up after dinner and started loading the dishwasher without me asking. He kept glancing at the younger girls playing in the living room, and finally said he'd been really scared when the social workers came that we'd all get split up into different homes. His hands shook a little as he handed me plates and admitted he'd been making backup plans about where everyone could go if things went bad. I realized this 14-year-old had been carrying way too much worry about keeping our family together. My sister drove up from 2 hours away that weekend with a huge craft box filled with beads and string and little charms. She set everything up on the dining room table and spent the whole afternoon with Lily making friendship bracelets while I made lunch. Lily's fingers worked carefully threading beads as she told my sister about missing her mom, but knowing the visits weren't safe anymore. My sister just listened and helped her pick out purple beads for the next bracelet. They made 5 bracelets total, and Lily gave one to each of us before dinner. 6 weeks crawled by before the prison approved Claudia for phone privileges and scheduled Lily's first call. The supervised visit coordinator brought special recording equipment to our house and explained Lily would have exactly 10 minutes. Lily sat at the kitchen table holding the phone with both hands, while the coordinator and I watched from across the room. She mostly just listened to her mom's voice and said okay a lot, but when she hung up, her shoulders weren't as tight. The coordinator made notes about how Lily handled the call and said we could schedule monthly calls going forward. The guardian ad litem showed up 2 days later with a thick folder and spent an hour watching the kids do their normal routine. She took pictures of Lily helping Kia with a puzzle, and Jason teaching them both a card game. Her report to the court said Lily was doing much better and should stay with us while getting therapy support. She wrote 3 pages about how close the kids had gotten and were included the photos as evidence. Kalani increased Lily's sessions to twice a week and started using dolls to help her understand complicated feelings. During one session, I could hear through the door as Kalani helped Lily practice saying she loved her mom, but her mom made bad choices that hurt people. Lily struggled with holding both ideas at the same time because 7-year-olds see things as all good or all bad. Kalani kept working with her week after week using games and drawings to help her brain understand. One evening, I walked past the girls' room and saw Lily sitting behind Kia on the bed, carefully braiding her hair. She was using the gentle method I'd taught her with no pulling and talking Kia through each step. Jason stood in the doorway taking pictures with his phone, and both girls were giggling about something. Lily finished the braid and tied it with a purple hair tie, then started on another one. The whole scene felt so normal and sweet after months of chaos. 3 months after that awful night, I'd followed her to the yellow house. We had our first week with no drama at all. Lily complained about homework just like any other kid, and tried to trade her vegetables for more mac and cheese at dinner. Nobody had nightmares or tried to leave in the middle of the night. The door alarm stayed quiet, and everyone slept in their own beds until morning. Jason helped with dishes without being asked, and the girls played board games without fighting. It felt almost weird having such a regular week after everything we'd been through. Wanda came for her final official visit on a Tuesday morning while the kids were at the school. She walked through the house, checking the door alarms and window locks, then sat at my kitchen table reviewing her files. She stamped a bunch of papers and said all 3 kids were doing great and should stay permanently. Her notes mentioned how bonded they'd become and how they looked out for each other. She shook my hand before leaving and said she was closing the case as successfully resolved. That night after dinner, Lily climbed into my lap while we watched a movie, something she hadn't done much before. During a commercial, she looked up at me and asked real quiet if she could call me Mama Park sometimes. She said quick that she wasn't trying to replace her real mom, but she needed a mama who was here every day. Her little fingers twisted the friendship bracelet on her wrist while she waited for my answer. I told her she could call me whatever felt right, and she nodded before settling back against me to finish the movie. The next month, when the phone rang for Lily's supervised call, she walked to the table without dragging her feet and picked up the receiver while the coordinator watched from her chair. Lily talked about her science project and the new girl in her class, and only asked once when her mom would call again before saying goodbye and hanging up properly. Each month the calls got easier, and by the 4th one she wasn't asking about release dates anymore, just telling her mom about normal kid stuff like losing a tooth and learning to ride Jason's old bike. Jason got his acceptance letter to the advanced math and science program on a Tuesday afternoon and came home waving the paper like a flag. Lily grabbed her markers and construction paper and spent an hour making him a card with rockets and equations she copied from his textbook, even though she didn't understand them. She presented it at dinner with both hands, and Jason actually got teary when he read what she wrote inside about him being the best big brother. Watching them hug across the table while Kia clapped made my chest tight because we really had become a family without me noticing when it happened. 6 months after that awful night, I'd followed her through the dark streets. Lily slept straight through from 8 to 7 without a single wake-up. The door alarms hadn't gone off in 3 months, and I'd finally stopped checking the monitor app every hour. She still saw Kalani once a week on Wednesdays, but they mostly played games now instead of working through trauma responses. Kalani said the acute crisis phase was over, and we were in maintenance mode, which felt like the best news I'd heard all year. The letter from Claudia came through official channels on a Thursday, already opened and reviewed by Wanda's office before reaching me. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear as she apologized for putting Lily in danger and making her walk alone at night. She wrote that the parenting classes were helping her understand what she'd done wrong, and she wanted me to know she was grateful I'd kept Lily safe. Wanda called after I'd read it 3 times and said it showed real growth from the classes, though only time would tell if it would stick. Lily's 8th birthday fell on a Saturday, and 12 kids from the school showed up with presents and sugar-fueled energy. Jason manned the grill flipping burgers while Kia organized pin the tail on the donkey with more rules than necessary. Lily laughed so hard during musical chairs that she got hiccups and had to sit out a round, but she was smiling the whole time. Her school friends sang happy birthday off-key, and she blew out all 8 candles in one breath while everyone cheered. That night at bedtime, she wrapped her arms around my neck and squeezed tight enough to hurt a little. She said real quiet that she was glad I'd kept her safe even when she was mad at me for telling on her mom. She understood now that grown-ups sometimes had to make hard choices to protect kids, and she was sorry for saying mean things during those first weeks. Her little hands patted my back like she was comforting me, and I had to work hard not to cry. Friday night found all 3 kids piled on the couch for movie night, with Jason making popcorn in the kitchen, using way too much butter. Kia had picked some animated thing with talking animals and claimed the middle spot, while Lily curled up on the end with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. Jason brought the bowl over and squeezed in next to Kia, passing it around while they argued about whether the movie was too babyish. Looking at them settled in together, throwing popcorn at each other and laughing at the silly parts, something settled in my chest. We'd survived something that should have torn us apart, but instead it made us stronger and more connected than before. The next morning over scrambled eggs and toast, Lily looked up from her plate and asked if we could go to the zoo this weekend, because her friend said they had baby penguins. Jason immediately said he'd help watch the girls so I wouldn't have to worry about losing anyone in the crowds. Kia started listing every animal she wanted to see, while Lily drew a map on her napkin of the best route through the exhibits. Life felt wonderfully normal with regular kid problems like who got the last piece of bacon and whose turn it was to clear the table. After everything we'd been through with midnight escapes and court hearings and supervised visits, having a simple breakfast conversation about zoo trips felt like the most beautiful thing in the world. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. It's definitely been a ride sharing these moments together. I'll see you around next time. Like the video? It helps more than you think.